This isn't just a story about beer. It's a masterclass in global conquest, where a single kidnapping threatened to derail an empire, and instead, forged a ruthless strategy for world domination. From Dutch canals to every corner of the planet, Heineken's rise is a blueprint for resilience and ambition. Let me show you how it happened. It is 1983. Alfred Heineken, the third-generation patriarch of a global beer empire, is walking out of his office in Amsterdam, and he does not come home. He and his driver are taken at gunpoint, stuffed into a van, and driven to a warehouse where they will be chained to a wall for the next 3 weeks. The kidnappers demand 35 million Dutch guilders, about $15 million today. But here is what makes this story truly strange: even as his family scrambles to raise the ransom, Heineken is not just a victim. He is a businessman. He negotiates. He talks to his captors about the beer market. And when he is finally released, he does not go home to rest. He goes back to work, because he knows that the next chapter of his life will not be about fear. It will be about conquest. Heineken today is the second largest brewer in the world, selling over 250 million hectoliters of beer every year across 190 countries. That is roughly 46 billion bottles. But to understand how a small Dutch brewery became a global titan, you have to go back to the beginning, to a time when the Netherlands was not a beer empire, but a country trying to rebuild after war, and to a man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. The story starts in 1864, when a man named Gerard Adriaan Heineken buys a brewery in Amsterdam called De Hooburg, the Haystack. It is a modest operation, producing maybe 50,000 hectoliters a year, which in the grand scheme of European brewing is nothing. But Gerard is not a brewer by trade. He is a businessman, and he notices something: the beer of the 1860s is unstable. It spoils. It travels poorly. You cannot ship it far, which means every brewery is local. And to Gerard, that is not a limitation. That is an opportunity. He realizes that if he can stabilize the beer, if he can make it survive the journey, he can break the geography of brewing. So he invests heavily in a new technology, the refrigeration unit. By the 1880s, Heineken is one of the first breweries in Europe to use artificial cooling, and it changes everything. Now, his beer can travel. Now, the local becomes regional, and the regional becomes international. But here is the critical insight: Heineken does not just sell beer. He sells consistency. In the 19th century, most beer was a gamble. You never knew what you were going to get. Heineken's advantage is that every bottle tastes the same. That reliability becomes the foundation of the brand. By the early 1900s, Heineken is exporting to Asia, to the Americas, to Africa. It is the first truly global beer brand, and it is doing this before the age of air travel, before the internet, before globalization was even a word. By 1914, Heineken is producing over 200,000 hectoliters annually. The Haystack has become a fortress. But then the world collapses. 2 world wars tear Europe apart. Heineken's breweries are damaged. Its supply chains are shredded. And after the Second World War, the Netherlands is a shattered country. Many Dutch companies never recover. But Heineken does, and it is because of one man, Alfred Heineken, the grandson of Gerard. Alfred takes over in 1948, and he does not want to rebuild the old empire. He wants to build a new one. And he has a strategy that is almost perverse in its simplicity: he will not try to win the domestic market. He will go after the world. This is the counterintuitive move. Most European brewers in the 1950s focus on their home countries. They fight for local market share. Heineken does the opposite. He looks at America, and he sees a beer market that is massive but bland. American beer in the 1950s is dominated by light lagers: Budweiser, Miller, Schlitz. They are efficient, but they are not interesting. Heineken decides to position itself as the premium import. Not the cheap beer. The sophisticated beer. The European beer. And he makes a bold bet: in 1953, Heineken signs a deal with the Van Munching Company to distribute in the United States. Leo Van Munching, a Dutch expat, starts selling Heineken in New York. At first, it is slow. Americans do not know what to make of this green bottle with the red star. But Van Munching is relentless. He targets bars and restaurants. He gets Heineken into the hands of tastemakers. And slowly, it catches on. By the 1960s, Heineken is the #1 imported beer in America. And here is the strategy behind the strategy: Heineken does not try to compete on price. It charges a premium. In 1965, a six-pack of Heineken costs about 20% more than a domestic six-pack. That margin is not just profit. It is a signal. It tells the consumer, this is different. This is better. And it works. By 1970, Heineken is selling over 10 million hectoliters in the United States alone. The Dutch beer empire is no longer just Dutch. But then comes 1983. The kidnapping. For 3 weeks, Alfred Heineken is held captive. He is chained to a wall, fed scraps, and threatened with death. And yet, when he is released, he does not retreat. He does not sell the company. He does not become paranoid and insular. He becomes more aggressive. He realizes that life is short, and he has a platform that can reach the entire planet. So he accelerates. He starts buying breweries around the world. In the 1980s and 1990s, Heineken acquires breweries in Spain, Italy, Poland, Russia, and across Asia. It is a shopping spree, but it is not random. Every acquisition is strategic. Heineken buys local brands that have distribution networks, and then it uses those networks to push its own flagship beer. This is the hub-and-spoke model: the local brand gives you access to the market, and the global brand gives you the premium margin. By the year 2000, Heineken is operating in over 150 countries. It has become the most international beer company in the world. But here is where the story gets really interesting. In 2008, the global financial crisis hits. Beer consumption in developed markets starts to decline. People are drinking less, and they are trading down to cheaper brands. Most brewers panic. Heineken does not. Instead, it doubles down on a strategy that seems almost suicidal: it goes after the premium segment even harder. In 2010, Heineken launches the Heineken Experience in Amsterdam, a tourist attraction that costs €50 million. It is a museum, a bar, a marketing machine. And it works. The brand becomes even more aspirational. By 2012, Heineken is the most valuable beer brand in the world, worth over $10 billion according to Interbrand. But the real genius of Heineken is not the marketing. It is the distribution. In 2015, Heineken acquires a majority stake in the Mexican brewery FEMSA, which owns brands like Dos Equis and Tecate. The price, $7.6 billion. Analysts say it is too much. But Heineken knows something they do not: the fastest growing beer market in the world is Latin America, and the fastest growing demographic in the United States is Hispanic. By buying FEMSA, Heineken gets a direct pipeline to both. By 2019, Heineken is selling over 30 million hectoliters in the Americas alone. The bet pays off. And then, in 2020, the pandemic hits. Bars and restaurants close. The entire on-premise channel, which accounts for about 20% of Heineken's sales, evaporates almost overnight. The stock drops 30%. Analysts predict disaster. But Heineken pivots. It shifts its marketing to at-home consumption. It launches digital campaigns. It partners with delivery services. And it uses the downtime to restructure its supply chain. By 2022, Heineken's revenue is back to pre-pandemic levels, and its profit margins are actually higher.